And also very elegant. Hola community, welcome to Blender Today Live, this stream where we see what's new in Blender, in the community, in the Blender Studio also. So it's exciting times. Yesterday we had the premiere of the latest open movie project by Blender Studio. You probably already seen it because we posted it everywhere, and it was posted also cross-posted on this channel as well. You may have seen the live stream also on the Blender Studio channel where the team got to show and explain a little bit of the magic behind the project. And you may also have seen the post on social media and the studio website as well. Today we have a mix of everything. We have Compositor mainly news. We have news actually on most places. We have animation, we have Eevee, performance improvement Eevee. It might be the release, this one for 5.2, where maybe people will finally make the jump from Eevee Legacy from 4.1 to the new one, and a few other things, user interface, and not that much more. It's not that impressive, but the Compositor alone, it's quite an improvement. What else do we have? We have some geometry nodes. We actually have, I need to ask you a favor today, by the way. If just download a recent version of Blender from this week at least. It can be up there as well, because we need to test, you and I and everybody watching this. I think we get about maybe up to 10,000 views on this episode, and we need to test the new essentials assets. Mostly, how hard would it be to hit the server, the Blender server, with the online assets that are included there, that will be included in Blender, because Blender 5.2, as you may know, which by the way, the window for new features is only in 3 weeks. It's over. So in 3 weeks we're gonna get 5.2 beta. And a month after that, we're gonna get 5.2 LTS released. And then every month, a new update, like as usual for LTS releases for 2 years, up to 2028. Crazy. That means that the release is gonna have online assets. So a bunch of people are gonna be accessing these assets. So we need to test the servers to see how well it hits. So we're going to talk about it in a moment. Remember, this stream is sorted alphabetically in sections. So if we follow me here, we have a... Well, actually, let's first look at some of these news. So the website, the studio website, has a few articles. The premiere date, the actual premiere itself, the video that you can watch, of course, but also has some content linked into it. I'm not going to talk too much about this because the Blender Studio website lives out of subscriptions from Blender Studio subscribers. So there's some things are behind a paywall, so I don't want to distract too much from the content that you get to see here. Although if you help Blender Studio, you're also helping Blender itself. But one of the highlights to me is the characters themselves. You can download the creator one, space creatures, and the other, well, basically all the characters in the film. You can also download the actual production content, like the shots themselves. If you go to Singularity, it's up here in Films, Singularity. Then under Content Gallery, Production File Assets, Shots Pack, you can get the entire files, like the full shots. Then this is free, actually. You can download it. If you want to 3D print your own creator, you can. It's actually free. So this one I'm going to share in the chat. Yeah, just so you can try it out, by Andy. So amazing to see all this new content here, and there is also more content that should be free, accessible for everyone. I just happen to be clicking in none of them, but the poster too. Okay, it's only 11 euros if you subscribe for 1 month. Okay, let's move on. What else? Actually, the article where you can read about it, that is also free to everyone. The story, the concept, the usage of the brush stroke tools, which they use for the short film, the extension is, of course, free and open source. 100,000 downloads, not bad. But there is a nice article, which is, by the way, it's the first time that the studio does this kind of landing page with a bit more information, some behind the scenes. This is all free access to everyone, and some animation, even some nice behind the scenes of the music, which many people seem to have loved and enjoyed. So that being said, let's see what is new in the Blender community. Well, the roadmap. This I already showed you this before. This has been officially announced, but of course, always you get the news in BlenderToday before everyone. The page has been published, the roadmap page, which, as you know from last time we discussed, includes a list of all the projects that are being worked on. Most of the projects, I mean, there's always work that happens to happen very quickly or maybe doesn't make it as an actual project. But this is from all the main like big projects that take long usually. And some of them actually have been updated from last week. The section of completed projects has some of them updated. Texture cache coming in 5.2. Improved instancing in Eevee. Actually, this I showed last time. Now it's completed. Improved ray tracing. I'm going to mention this today on today's episode. So 5.2 is already promising to be pretty neat. Let's see. What else? And the online asset. Okay. Now it's let's start directly with this. Not related to assets, this asset section. Let me show you how to test these online assets, the essentials one. The assets themselves are maybe gonna get some tweaks before the final release, but the good thing is that it's online, so you can just download it again and it will be automatically updated for you. So yeah, you just need to re-download it. So let's see. Let me show you. I just happen to have this little guy over here, which is it's so magical. I wish these thumbnails would have color though. As in, like, would have the render, no, like the Eevee version, which should look okay. Well, I should look a bit more appealing at least. Maybe I shouldn't have done. No, it looks so nice. Look at that. Use this for the thumbnails, actually, and it shouldn't be too hard to update either because there is an operator in the edit in the browser, the asset browser. Anyway, so let's go back to let's go back to adding a new online asset, testing the online assets. So let me check. I have here my asset browser, right? I have a bunch of asset libraries actually, and here, but I want to add some of them that are online. Actually, I have Polyhaven, I have user library, Canon file. Let's add a new one. So we go to the preferences, edit preferences, then we go to asset libraries, and you will see that nothing has changed actually, because you first need to go to experimental and then enable remote asset libraries. This setting, maybe by the time, if you're watching live, it's still here. Maybe by the time you watch this, it's not gonna be experimental anymore. So maybe this setting, if you don't see it there and you know you're using a Blender from the last couple of weeks, then it's because it's official. So then you go to remote asset libraries, and then you might notice that this button over here has become a menu, darker. So add remote asset library, then you're gonna paste the link that I'm sharing now on the chat, or it's also in the description of the news this week. Create, and that's it. Now this has been added here. So the name, maybe I'm gonna call it online essentials. You don't have to rename it, just for the demo. This might be the name that it's in the actual release. And you will see here that online essentials showed up, which means I can select it, and now I have this. Awesome. So let's see. Let's add a plane here. Let's add some bricks. Nice. I have a bricks texture which is compiling, and it works. Then I can add maybe a Suzanne that is gonna be maybe shiny like a car paint. Drag and drop, and it works. And this is all, of course, open source, great, like not even Creative Commons, like public domain, do whatever you want with it. And it works on Eevee and Cycles out of the box. So nice. Okay, what else can you do? Well, you can do pretty much anything, but something to keep in mind is that when you append a material, it just works the same way as previously. You're packing it into the scene. So in this case, because settings in materials are not exposed on a higher level yet, which it should come with the introduction of texture layers with this project, maybe it could be added before. But for example, in the case of these bricks, if I want to make these like more dense, I would have to either edit the UV, like if it's using UV, I can just edit the UV, right? Make it bigger, and then of course it will have more. But if you want to do this at the actual material level, then you have to make it local. For that, you go to the material. You will see that there is a surface and there is a scale factor here. Ideally, this will work one day like geometry nodes, where you can just have a panel with the settings that the asset author exposed, so it's more user-friendly. But at the time, you have to either make it pack here, duplicate, or make it unpack it basically. And now you can tweak the, well, any value, but in this case, just the scale is already a good option. And you can tweak everything, of course, the roughness, the anything in this case, color variation. Ooh, nice. And then the roughness, can make shininess. There you go. Beautiful. Awesome. Is it working? Are the servers going down? Is the internet still working? Are you pushing so much the server that things are going down? I'm just curious. I want to check. All right. Cool. It's working for me. Someone said yes. Nice. Can we link it to our personal cloud drive? You can link it anywhere, really. Anywhere where you have an asset, a library. So that's it. Yeah, people see this when you click on it. But that's the page. That's the landing page. You need to add this to Blender. In Blender, you don't get the forbidden. You're not meant to browse this on the browser. You're meant to browse this on the Blender on the asset browser. So nice. Will the online assets library path be included out of the box? Yes. So when Blender 5.2 comes out, this will be added by default, but Blender does not have access to the internet, to online access by default, so you're not gonna see it. You need to enable online assets, online access in system, online access, and once this is added, then you will have access to the asset libraries. That's it. Offline first. I'm pasting the link again and just in the chat, but remember, it's not meant to be browsed on the browser. You're gonna get forbidden, but Blender has a special access to it, which is not really special access. There is a JSON file so there is no index HTML. There is a JSON file there that Blender finds from this URL. It's like, okay, you can I think you can even pass on the whole JSON URL, but Blender finds it if you don't know. Okay, let's see what else is new in Blender. So try it. Let me see if things break or not. We'll find out. Okay, now time to see what's new in Blender. Let's look at the changes. A for Alembic. That's nice. Alembic. I like that. Alembic. So, support importing static object visibilities. So, you know, everybody talks about USD, but every studio that I talk to, they use Alembic. So it's important to have these kind of updates. So in this case, we have import static object visibility. So if the visibility of an object is defined in the object itself and it's not animated, Blender will bring it. Well, even if it's animated, Blender will bring it, but it will now import it, but it is going to be static. The animated visibility is currently not supported, but I assume eventually, maybe. For the time being, it just brings the static one, which is great because sometimes you have your scene, you want to bring it over, you want to bring all those helper objects, but you don't want them to show up on your scene. So you carefully go and set the visibility for them, and now Blender respects that. So nice. Okay, let's see. Next, let's see. That's it for for Alembic. Thanks, Kevin. Next one is the A for animation. Have you ever noticed that there was no I can just open it here. That there was no operator until now to delete F curves. I've seen many F curves. Sorry, the F curves, yes, but not the modifiers in the F curves. There was no like a global way of adding it, which is very cumbersome. You have to go to each curve and then disable and delete each one. Now there is. So this new operator lets you not only edit, mass delete F curves, but also you can filter to edit to delete those in specific types, keyframe types. So that's nice. Like generators, for example. You can remove only the first modifier, which is interesting. Remove by type, so type generator, for example. And the default setting is remove all. So if you don't do anything, we remove all the modifiers in the selected curves. Let's see. Another new operator, duplicate rename. That's nice. So you know you can duplicate a bone, but now you can duplicate rename bones. This will do two things. One, it duplicates the bone, but also does like a search and replace and tries to rename it. So in that case, I think there is a picture in the PR. Yes, so something like this. So duplicate, rename, flip names, search and replace. Let's see. This one by Christoph. Chris, thank you. A4 assets, there's not much more. Let's see, how's everyone? Oh, Julian dropped by. Nice. I just asked the community to test your stuff. Once the daily builds get published, adding the essential library will include the online essentials. Oh, wait, is it already? Today? Huh. Okay, so we are ahead of the curve. What I just explained, tomorrow you're gonna have it for free. Well, it's also free now, but you're not gonna have to edit it yourself. Someone asks, why is pack default? It doesn't make sense. If there is a need to pack asset library, the user should intentionally pack them. And why can't pack assets link to automatically pack resources? Why is pack default? Well, because when you bring assets, if you bring it, if you use one material 10 times, you want Blender to be smart and try to reuse the same one, and that you can only do if something is packed right? If you append it, it means I make a copy. If you link it, it means it doesn't live here, it lives somewhere else. So the only solution there is to pack it. You have it in the blend file, and it's reused by all the assets, all the other elements, objects, whatever, using that material. Actually, in the past, you would be not so smart, and it will make copies of everything. Let's see. B for BLI, no. Okay, this is a strange one, but if you've seen the show before, in the last few episodes, there has been updates in the, well, in 5.1 too, in the way Blender handles curves, grease pencil, holes in meshes, and with some of these crazy algorithms to try to find the most efficient way to fill a shape by keeping the holes in them. Well, there is an optimization in this algorithm now that should be much faster. How much faster? Let's see. So replace the task says replace the multi-threaded per region raycast with a more efficient single-threaded one, which is good. Which is good if it works better in single-threaded. So, I mean, if it works faster single-threaded, then it means it should be faster also multi. But in this case, actually, compare the old with the new methods. One thread is about 44 times faster. This is a test on a complex polygon with many holes and 99,000 edges. Neat. So 44 times faster. That's cool. And what's great about the updates on optimizations on these kind of operations is that everything that uses this, such as, well, mesh editing, curves, grease pencil, geometry nodes maybe. I'm not sure if this still it uses it already, but in that case, it gets the update for free. Let's see. And there is another one, but it's not that impressive. Still faster, but it says minor speed up. Let's move through the cleanups. And this is interesting. C for CLI, command line inputs of Blender. You know, do you run Blender on the command line? Well, if you do, now there is one new option that you can enable, which is called -X for factory startup. So, well, I use this all the time because I try to test Blender with the default settings, because I work on development and we need to try it very often to see how Blender runs. Or also if you're trying bugs and stuff, it's good to run it in by default. So this is -that factory -startup now becomes -X, capital X. Okay, let's see. C4 color management, and this is just well, mainly I heads up that the display transform, so images basically in anywhere in Blender showing there was an option, there used to be an option called, what was it, image display method. It used to be under viewport textures, and there was a method here you could choose. Now there is no more option because now it will always show, I will always use the GPU, so the GLSL option, to show these images. So it should be faster in most cases. So if you notice anything strange with the way Blender displays your textures, your images in everywhere, your renders everywhere, then report it, please. Let's see. I think we're ready to jump to C for Compositor. And this is the title of today's, because there's new features and speed ups and smarter Compositor. So let's see what's there. The main one, I think, it's actually the first one in the list. These are sorted by the time they were added, by the way, not some special sorting. Support partial static lazy evaluation. What does it mean? It means that you can now be lazy. because, well, Blender is going to be lazy. What does it mean being lazy in this case, or in the computing case, is that only work when there is the need to work. So if I change something, compute it. If I didn't change it, don't waste time there, which means faster rendering or faster compositing, because, well, faster iterations. So if you're rendering something once, it takes the same amount of time. But if you are constantly changing values to see what has changed, now Blender would only update what has changed, which means everything becomes a lot faster. So in this patch, for example, nodes that the result hasn't changed are not going to be computed. Static means that the laziness option needs to be known statically inside the node group. Yeah, there is a little caveat here that it only works for cases for static ones, not dynamic. What does it mean is that for example, there is a switch node that is connected directly to the Boolean output of a group input node. So you have a switch node directly to the group. Then that can be, that's static. That can be automatically executed by Blender. The thing is, if instead of connecting it to that output, you connect it to another node, then that means it's dynamic. It's not directly being used by, it's not independent, to say. So that's not gonna be the case. So just so you know, if you want to optimize your scenes, maybe do this. Let's see. So yeah, it's not lazy, it's genius, says Roman here in the chat. I agree with you. Lazy evaluation is the only evaluation I do. So lazy, smart. Then, oh, okay, speaking of smart, the way, so historically, in Blender in general, but in the Compositor, the way some nodes will trigger updates was done manually. So, okay, if I change the render size or some specific setting in the scene, that manually was set to trigger an update of the Compositor, which can lead to developers missing some update or updating too much when it's not really needed. And that now has been automated by, instead of doing it manually, it will use the depths graph, the dependency graph, which already does so much for Blender. Updating modifiers, updating the scene, updating this animation, everything. Now it will also trigger compositing update. What does it mean as a user? Well, for example, adding or adjusting a node that is not yet connected to the output will no longer trigger a redundant execution. I love this one. It was so annoying. You have your composite and then you add a new node which is not connected to anything by default, right? It would still composite everything. Not anymore. Undo. Also, if you undo something that is not related to the compositor node tree, it will no longer execute the redundant execution. Execute the execution, yes. That's very redundant. Then the compositor will properly execute on changes to cameras and objects referenced by the compositor. Yes. So if the compositor is calling a camera, the camera changes. Now it will know for free. Frame changes will no longer execute the compositor if it does not depend on time. So if it's not animated, do not composite. That's amazing. The interactive compositor, the one in the viewport, is now more responsive since we schedule the job immediately after updates instead of sending a notifier, waiting for the editor listener, then tagging the editor to refresh, and then scheduling the job. So yeah, this fixes a 7-year-old bug of also any update on the compositor is no longer going to block the UI, the viewport, because it's independent. So nice. Yeah, this is awesome. Just great news. I think you will notice this is one of those things that if you don't notice is because things are working well. So nice. Okay. Oh yeah, it also means that the operators will no longer block the 3D viewport. This is what I just mentioned. So cool. Thank you, Omar, so much. What else? Okay, this is a small performance improvement by changing the default of some nodes. So texture nodes in the composite, well, texture nodes in a 2D environment like the compositor, we're still using 3 vectors as default. So a Voronoi texture will have 3 dimensions, and that was most of the time not really needed unless you really want to change like clouds depth, for example. So by making the default setting 2 dimensions, you can still change it to 3, but by making it 2D by default, it means that it's a lot faster and less resource hungry. So the 3 nodes that are affected are probably here in the files changed. I think it's the texture Voronoi is now, instead of being 3 dimensions, now it depends in the composite. It's still gonna be 3 in other geometry, in other node trees. White noise and Voronoi and noise. Yeah, awesome. It's the small things that you may not notice. Let's see. Well, that means that if when you add a new Voronoi or noise or white noise texture, by default, it's gonna look different than the default previously. Just something to keep in mind. Speaking of noise, there is a new asset in town. It's called film grain, and those that have been paying attention to the daily builds may remember this guy from the very first group of assets that was added for 5.1 or 5.0, because at some point it was removed because it wasn't up to people complained that it wasn't really accurate or it was noisy, which should not give the right examples. So yeah, so nice. Can I look at that? Can I see a picture of it in action? Well, I can look at the node itself, but can I see an effect on it? This is from 3 months ago now, so this must be the old one still. So you can try it for yourself. Film grain. It's now in Blender, so you should find it in the, let's see, in the compositor. Under, well, I have a bunch here actually. I only want, I don't want all the other ones. I want only the essentials. And here we should have sensor noise, film grain. There you go. So I add the compositor and I should see film grain, and actually I could see it as always here. I'm gonna notice a difference. Yeah, look at that. Very noisy. Although in the stream maybe you don't see it as much. Super 8mm. Oh wow, Super 8 is the default. Are people using it that often? Nice. Oh, you can even add IMAX level. Interesting. Cafenol home movie broadcast in the cinema, portrait 400 or custom. And in custom you can choose 8 to 70mm, and then some style. Cinematic greedy, cinematic soft, custom, cinematic X Pro, and home movie. And you can even go custom here, and then you go, so you can go super custom. That's so cool. You know what's even cooler? That I can remove this guy from here, right? I can dissolve it. I don't have it anymore. And in the video sequencer, now these days I can also use the same. I was just remembering that this is now possible. This is so cool. In the sequencer, if I go to preview, right, I have this scene. I have to set it to render, I guess, right? I need to set the strip display to render. And then I should be able to use the exact same effect in the sequencer. So I select this, add a new compositor node, and then add it here, and bam, it's in the sequencer. We live in the future. Compositor effects, that get added for one side of Blender get used another side of Blender. That's amazing. The possibilities. I wish I had this when I was a kid, when I had more time and creativity. So nice. So thank you to the author of this. Who's the author of this? Habib? No, it was someone else, I think, contributed. Here, Selman Borhoff. Thank you, Selman, for contributing this. Nice eagle. Is that an eagle? Let's see. Hawk. All right. You can even add film grain as a strip modifier. Yeah, that's what I did. No, that's what I just did. It's a strip modifier in the modifier tab here, instead of using the node. Oh, wait, what do you mean? Oh, here. Well, if someone would finish a patch that I know, that would show up here, actually. Would we get this in 5.2? Please. Pretty please. That's coming. That's coming. Select it in the node group selector. Yeah, you need to select it here, but this is ugly. Come on. Like, how many clicks? I have to first compositor, then click here, then look at all this. Oh, it's even linked with the name compositing nodes essential.001. Ew, that's ugly. There's no thumbnail. The menu is huge. It says 001. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just complaining because there are developers in the chat. So it's a nice, it's like, if, you know, you could only do this quality of life tweaks. Okay, let's move on because there is more. Add descriptive tooltips. Oh, nice. So this is Bike and Ashritha added descriptions to the filters. So instead of just looking at, I don't know, like tent. What is a tent blur? Well, that means that is applied a triangle blur filter. Nice. What is fuzz Gaussian, right? There's no description for what is fuzz Gaussian. Okay, and now there is. Applies a recursive Gaussian blur that can be faster but less accurate. Nice. Okay, let's see. What do the developers say? Less than ideal UI right now. Yes, actually, I am complaining, but I'm also part of the... I'm to blame because I could, instead of having fun doing live streams, I could be making a design so developers can implement it as well. So me too. Next, port rotation nodes from geometry nodes. So Chris Ivana ported the, which ones? Input rotation, and rotation swap. No, these are all the swap, or the swap menu. So the rotation nodes are now available in the compositor. Rotate vector, invert, rotation to Euler, make rotation to quaternions, and the ones you know and love are now available in the compositor. The compositor will now use GPU by default. If it doesn't work, it will fall back to CPU anyway. But by default, you don't have to go manually and set it in the performance tab. If you go to render, performance, compositor, you will see now that the default is GPU. So nice. Next. Bill implemented anisotropic sampling for transformations. This patch allows anisotropic sampling for transformations such as scaling. Previously, it was using bicubic as a fallback, and it wasn't supported. So now it is supported, which means higher quality downsampling, well, when downscaling transformations. And this is pretty neat. Let's look at the example here. So this one, where is it? Compositor. downsampling transformations, PR. So then let's compare. Okay, let's go. let's zoom in a bit. Okay, so this is now, and this is before. Before, after, before, after. Ew, that was ugly. I mean, sometimes maybe you want ugly, right? You want, because at a distance maybe it is sharper, but if you're, I don't know now which one is which, so you'll have to find out by yourself. Okay, let's see. Then add open operator to king screen. Nice. So if this one by Quackaruni. So other nodes that have movie clip property clip of operator open in the layout. So I think that's just the before and after. Ah, I see. So before you will have this icon just dangling there on the left. Now there is a proper open button like in other nodes. Actually, all the other nodes that use movie clip had that. Nice, thank you, Wakaruni. Optimizations, optimize extended boundary blurring. Okay, so this resolves performance and improves it by 30%. And all the benchmark files should be now faster than 4.5. So apparently it was a regression, and now it's faster even than 4.5. Good news. Next, support drag and drop objects from the outliner. Yay, quality of life improvement. Drag and drop well, this is similar to what is possible already in geometry nodes. So drag and drop an object from the outliner will now create an object info node with that object applied. Super nice. Drag and drop is potential. Would it make sense for the shader editor? No, because we don't have an object in. Well, we do have an object info, but you can only. It's the active object only. You cannot bring from another object. But yeah. Let's see. Expose rotation output in object info node. I never noticed that this wasn't added. Now it is. The object info node's rotation in the compositor is now exposed. Because now we have a bunch of rotation nodes as well. Rotation socket, rotation, everything. Let's switch from C compositor to C for core. Report failure for autosaves. Yep, Blender would not tell you that things were failing if they were failing to autosave. Now it will. Now it would actually pop. Well, it was actually reporting it, but wrong apparently. Now it is reporting it properly, so you should see a notification if autosave doesn't work. For example, say you are autosaving a huge file and there's no more space on disk. Now Blender will let you know. C4, well, cycles. I almost say raycast, but look. This is great. If I was reading this and I was almost naming the episode after this feature. Raycast node in cycles will now output attributes hitting that ray. So that's amazing. Sergey Shervin, head of development at Blender, has implemented this feature. So on the user side, it's implemented using extendable socket declaration. Yeah. Let's look at the picture. There's a nice picture here. I think the picture was used in the regression test file. So let's look at this. So you have some geometry, right, connected to the raycast, and then there is attributes, right, that you can pass on, and you can get the output to a node group and use it afterwards. This is awesome. This is the possibilities are endless, even for NPR, I think, no? For non-photorealistic rendering. So nice. So the Eevee implementation returns 0 for the attributes. It's quite tricky to implement attribute sampling. So for now, this is a cycles only feature, unfortunately. But yes, so cool. There is a limitation though. Let me check. No, so the limitation is for OSL apparently. Let's actually read this. So it's done in the node settings panel. Adding attribute creates an input and an output socket. The input socket is a string that denotes the attribute to sample. Yes. And the output provides access to the value. As usual, a little caveat is that the color attribute will create 2 sockets, one for color, one for alpha. I can live with that. This is because colors in shader nodes is RGB, not RGBA. Cycles SVM, so the regular one that we all know and love, not OSL, is based on the existing node attribute SVM node. Whereas the OSL implementation, the open shading language, requires a bit more trickery, and there is the limitation that you can only have up to 32 or each of the float, alpha, or color vector attributes. Nice. There is also a mechanism now in Cycles for shaders to request global attributes. Okay. This is kind of amazing. So I'm curious what people are going to be making for this. So shader attributes, well, attributes in general. So you can actually check, wait, attributes for physics? Oh, yeah. No? Wait, that's a good point, Namna, but you can use a raycast to give you back attributes that have been affected by geometry now, so physics. So you can change a shader's appearance based on physics. Okay, I'm gonna need some time to play after this. That's kind of amazing. Please, people, go and do awesome test files. Let's show that in the release notes, please. Wow. Let's see. What else? Oh, okay. This is not a feature yet, but I like where this is going. So it's an implementation by Chris from Intel. Intel, you know, the creators of OpenImage Denoise, the OpenImage Denoiser, the only bits of AI that Blender has internally, the denoisers. And this commit adds a new backward motion vector denoising pass to Cycles. At the moment, it's not used. However, in the future, in a future version of OpenImage Denoise, there are plans to use this for viewport denoising. So interesting. We start to see something there. Not used at the moment, but yeah, denoising backward motion pass. Let's see what else. Whoa, hey. This is an example of how user feedback really affects development. So during the implementation of the texture cache feature in Cycles, one option was removed. The simplify option to limit the maximum texture size that has been removed as part of that project because it was expected for the texture cache to just do most of the work. There is no need to cap the maximum texture size if it's already going to use mapping with tiles and super advanced. But user feedback, they said, hey, we actually need that feature. So it's now back. The option is called texture limit. It's the same that we know. So let me see if I can find it quickly here. Under simplify, texture size limit. There you go. So simplify, and you can set in up to 8K. What is the limit? So not only the cache, but just in general, you can limit all your textures to be 1K if you want to. So yeah, I also find this like, I don't even want one tile to be 4K maybe or something like that. If I wanted to send it to the farm, it's gonna be small anyway. Well, no, in that case, Cycles will be smart. Anyway, good to have the option. Right, let's see. What else? Shouldn't simplify be under performance? Someone asks in the chat. Simplify under performance. Performance has so many menus already. But yeah, in theory, performance should, yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? But they're so crowded already. And simplify. Good question. Yeah, and the thing is, there are these presets, and these presets affects everything under performance, under the panel. So if we add even more, right, we have all this options. There will be 3 level. I don't know, you tell me. We will go 4 level, yeah, 4 level dip. For what, right? And it's been that simplify panel. I remember I was one of the ones pushing for it, and it's been there for so long that updating documentation just for that one panel, nah, it's not worth it. Every time we make changes in Blender, we should think of all the tutorials that we are making not obsolete, but making harder to follow just because that one changed. And I'm guilty of those changes sometimes for the sake of consistency, but it's always in the back of my head if we really should change it or not. Let's see. That was for cycles. Let's switch to D4 draw. Well, this is a small one. It's that when... Yeah, so not long ago, when creating UVs with geometry nodes, there was no default active UV map, and in Blender there's always needs to be an active UV map, like something needs to be active, like as a fallback. The same case has now been applied for color attributes. You need some kind of default color attributes, so now there is one when creating those in geometry nodes. Otherwise there would be yeah, it could fail. I think there was a bug report even around that, or around, well, actually the one for the UV editor was the error there. Let's see. Let's go to E for Eevee. All right, there is plenty of changes to Eevee in this release, and as I mentioned, maybe you tell me that if you're using Eevee next, the current the Eevee that you know from the last many releases that was introduced in Blender 4.2 LTS, then you will be happy with these changes. If you are there's still people using Blender 4.1 because of the old Eevee legacy, and maybe this release, if you know any of those people, maybe you can tell them, hey, when 5.2 comes out, maybe give it a try again, because many of the big issues, shadows, ambient occlusion, ray tracing, have been addressed in this release. So today, actually, just today in this episode, we're gonna cover many of them. Like this commit, it says ray tracing, resolve major issues. It's a big commit, 560 addition, 200 deletions, and the task itself is actually split in multiple fixes. Reprojection is not working. Clamp accent reprojection also not working. The sphere prov LOD, level of detail mapping, not working. Screen radiance also was having issues. Then there's pictures for each one of them. I'm not going to go through all of them because there are many. Then the construct hit position also has been restructured for the planner. Spatial denoise also improved. Fixed temporal accumulations mirroring, no denoise. Some cases where it would not denoise. So you can use now Eevee without denoise in these cases. Then when using low tracing resolution, it will also just look really bad. I don't know if you get to see it here, but let's see if I get to look. Eek. Really noisy. So now it's actually much nicer. And like that many, like better variance estimates, log space accumulation in all the noise passes. So the highlights are working better in that case. And yeah, it's a huge change 40 files have been changed. So that alone should, if you had issues with ray tracing in Eevee, give it a try. Not just that, ambient occlusion. This improves ambient occlusion's far occluder's contribution to fast GI. Fast GI is this fake global illumination that you can combine with global illumination to make the best of performance and looks. And sometimes I prefer how it looks with fast GI other than the real GI. But yeah, there's another improvement that should make users that had issues before switch to the new one. So you can see some, I don't know if you get to see it, but behind this cube, there's this line. Now there is actual shadows. Yay. So things that were far in the scene are now going to be doing or occluding behind properly. Let's see. Better screen space thickness heuristics. Also, this improves the thickness heuristics for screen space ray tracing, fast GI, ambient occlusion, and the raycast node. This changes the behavior of thickness sliders, likely the changing of the look. The scene is going to look also slightly different, and the option for far thickness in fast GI approximation has been removed. In the PR, there should be more details. If you understand these graphs, you will know, but otherwise, the small constant thickness is really different. You can actually see things when things are far away. Nice. Ugly. Nice. There's spam bots? Where? Let's see, where is the spam bots? I don't see the spam. Where's the spam? Who's the spam? I don't know. Just point them. Let's see. In E for Eevee is already done. Oh wow. F for the F word. FFmpeg. There's two features, and this is funny because these changes actually are by Jeroen Bakker, developer and Blender, working on Vulkan and the Compositor in the past. And anyway, many of these changes, I was surprised to see them. It's like, why? Again, then yeah, he mentioned that he went on holidays to hiking, recording with a camera that records stereo, and then bringing back to Blender, and Blender wouldn't know about it. Or when you put those videos together and then you export them as an FFmpeg video, you upload them to YouTube, and YouTube would treat it as a regular video, not stereo. Not anymore. So the rendering of an stereoscopic scene will now to a video will now save those properties, the stereo metadata. So you can directly from Blender take that video and put it on YouTube, and you will see stereo. That also has been changed in the, actually there is a video demo, I think, even for panoramic rectangular data as well. This, if you export this video with MKV, then you will see something like this exported from Blender directly without doing any kind of trickery. Will just work as expected. Nice. Small things. Let's see. So F for FFmpeg we have covered already. Then F for fixes, plenty of fixes. Jesus, that's a lot of fixes. Okay, let's go to G for geometry nodes. In geometry nodes, there are some things that are no longer experimentals. So lists are a kind of socket and nodes and like a whole thing in Blender that has been experimental for a while, but now they're no longer experimental. This is one of those things in Blender that are crucial for physics. Well, for many things, but in this case for physics, they are going to be used a lot. So it's good to see them out of experimental. The nodes are field to list, get list item, list length, split string, collection children. So that, oh, that's nice. So you get a, oh, nice. How does it look? I think it even has the shape of a list. So let's go to geometry nodes and then add children, collection children. There you go. Look at that. It's like a sandwich. So you get in the collection, and then this will spit out a list of objects and a list of, well, a list of collections and a list of objects, children objects. That's cool. Nice. Let's see. So thank you, Hans, for, well, working on this forever ago, and now congrats on getting it out of experimental. Then the compare node now supports data blocks. That's amazing. You can compare two objects and two collections, for example. If they're not equal, then you get a, well, a boolean, right? Yes or no. That's so cool. Nice. Is this correct? The socket shouldn't have the, I mean, yeah, socket is correct, but also shouldn't it have, well, yeah, you're comparing sockets, but I was kind of, should it be the others, the node, the object icon and the collection icon? It's one of those things that both are correct, but both are, yeah, they could be go both ways, could go both ways. Speaking of data blocks, now connecting them to an actual viewer node will display the name of that. No? This changes the viewer node? Yes. So it will display not just self object in this case, but actual name and icon for that data block. So nice. Let's see. Wanna see it? Actually, can I then connect this to a viewer? No. It says collections, it says objects, it doesn't show the actual objects. However, if I do bring in a light here, well, no, in this case it's an object. Can I connect? Yes, there you go. And if I connect it here, then I see the light. Oh, do I get the light or the light type icon? So I go here and then I change this to be, say, sun. No, it doesn't. It's still the object icon. Well, I mean, you know, it's fine. Let's see. It's an object, right? What you get is an object, so it makes sense that it's the object type. Although in the outliner we always swap the icon for something else, but the data icon in that case. Let's continue. Yeah, I was fast with that one, guys, right? Next, add merge by distance building block nodes. Yes, so merge by distance. That could be a build. That could be a node group that is built with building blocks, and this is what this PR adds actually. So there is a number of nodes here: cluster by distance, cluster by connected, and merge points. So this is basically how it looks. So something like this. So you get the points, evaluate them, cluster that field, mesh cluster, then a switch menu for the mode of merging, and then you merge the geometry. Okay, nice. Let's see. What else? Getting confused because when switching, because I switch browser for this episode for the first time. I'm using Vivaldi because it has this nice split view that allows you to have one website on one side, which is the notes, basically the markdown, and then on the other side I have the, but I'm still figuring out, and it has some bugs. I want to report it to them. But other than that, I think that is all for geometry nodes. We can now switch to, wow, yeah, responsive. No, well, there's benchmark test, which is great, but it's not really a feature for final users. Although you're gonna benefit from it, because tests means that developers can catch any issues with broken anything, but also performance issues more quickly, automatically. Actually, even there are tests that compare two renders automatically, and they run on demand, but also every night. Every night there is a bunch of servers here in the studio, in the Blender HQ, that render all kinds of test renders, compare them, and if the difference is too large, boom, an alert rings in the whole building and emails of developers and people. Okay, M for modifiers. Let's see. And for modifiers, there is two changes. One of them, improve rotation alignment options in array modifier. Oh, nice. Simon has updated the array modifier asset that was introduced in Blender 5.1. So the change is taking a while to load. Actually, it must be a big. I wasn't that big, actually. Okay, so in that case, let's see. This change replaces the access option. It's a bug fix, actually, even for rotation alignment with a local rotation input to tune the alignment of on top of the default behavior. This improves usability with the since the behavior is more intuitive. Okay, nice. For the circle shape, the alignment adapts to the base orientations towards the selected central axis now. Okay, so this is the option. Align rotation, local rotation, the options. Next. Also related to, let's open in, there you go. They have something, Vivaldi has something called the follower tab, which allows you to click on things and open automatically on the other side. The thing is, by default, it doesn't do that, and it's very annoying. Because it opens it in a new tile, and it keeps adding tiles. My screen is not that wide yet. This is kind of a bug fix, but also a change in behavior that is based on user feedback. So modifiers, keep active state in the copy modifiers to selected objects. When using the copy modifiers to selected object, I think it's Control L. So you have two objects, and then you do Control L, copy modifiers to selected objects. The active object element will be passed on to the other ones. So that's based on user feedback. That's what it makes more sense to do. So super nice. So you may notice that some things are different. It's those things that you shouldn't notice, because it should feel more, oh, what I had active is now active in this new object. Great. But if you were used to the old way, to keep in mind. Then next, N for nodes. Yes, drag multiple selected sockets into an editor. This one is so nice. This is also one of those that you wouldn't notice unless someone told you, or you just try it, and then when it works, it's like chef's kiss. So look at this. It's a bit confusing because of the cursor here of Endor, yes. But basically, you can now select multiple sockets in the group sockets panel, drag and drop them into your node setup, and it will create a single group input node with all the sockets that you had selected. So it's super nice. Let's see. What else? In transfer compatible, another one by the same author, by Endor. Transfer compatible reroute links on swap. So now you can swap. For example, you have these math nodes that you just cut with the shift right click, right? Anyway, you made a reroute, right? So you add shift right click, yes. So you made this reroute. Now you can swap this, and the swap will be smart, and it will keep the type. So in this case, it's very fast. So, but let's see it in a loop. So in this case, is adding a reroute between two math nodes, and the swap operator keeps that node. So nice. Let's see. Again, it's one of those things that you wouldn't even notice. It just works. Let's see. Thank you for that quality of life changes, Endor. I really like those. You know what else I really like? Performance. This change by Adas makes OpenEXR writing super fast. How much faster? Let's see. So the commit goes as the following: faster writing on of half precision EXRs, so 16-bit. When the input data was converted into FP16 for EXR writing, it's being done one pixel value at a time, single-threaded. So now do that multi-threaded and using our own conversion functions. How much faster this is? Well, on a 4K resolution image, saving this on a Ryzen 5950X, as example, on Linux, saving this used to take 91 milliseconds, now is 62 milliseconds. Then something that used to take 100 milliseconds, now is half the time, 50 milliseconds. This is what happens when doing save on an image, saving something again. But this one is even faster. The byte input goes from 273 to 94 milliseconds. Now that this code path almost never happens. But hey, you need to run it using Python. Hey, but if you use Python, then it's much faster. But this is amazing. This is super nice. So why do you care about this? Well, say you have render farms care, right? When you are exporting things, when you're exporting your sequence as EXR, with this format, now it will be so much faster. We often forget when rendering a sequence that the rendering is one part, but the saving to file to the disk also takes time, and that's not accounted in the render time as far as I know. So that's something to keep in mind, right? And now it's much faster, so maybe you don't keep it in mind. So cool. Let's see. O4 outliner. One new feature. Also, quality of life improvement by Pratik. The collection icon color will now be used in this menu. In this, I wonder if people even know this feature, that you can click on when you have a collapsed collection or collapse anything really. These buttons are clickable actually. You can click on them and you get a list of objects. So in the default scene, if I collapse the collections and I click on if I have many objects, in this case I only have one. So say I have 5 objects, I can click on it and select other objects from this menu. Super nice. In the case of collections, the color wasn't being listed. So now there is. So you click on it and you see the color right here. Yeah, awesome. In case you didn't know, this is how it looks in the past. So it would look all white. It wasn't following. So small change, but so nice. It's hidden. Yes, it's hidden. Many things are hidden in Blender. How would you want to know? Show a drop down icon next to it, like a tiny arrow down, like this guy. Maybe, but then it will take more space. What do you want, space or it's tricky. The horizontal real estate in the outliner is very precious. Maybe only show the drop down when hovering. Yeah, but where? You need more space. You need widening it, right? Let's see. Where were we? Geometry nodes we did, and modifiers we did. Nodes we did, outliner, and in other feature, well, it's a feature that already exists, and I mentioned in the previous episode that the scroll to active feature that was introduced recently in 5.2 alpha, that allows you scroll to active, that allows you to keep in sync what you have selected in the viewport with what you see in the outliner. This is now in sync. No matter where it is in the list, it will always focus on that, which is great. And it wasn't the case before. So when the feature was introduced, the option was made off by default, which keeps it in, yeah, I mean, it keeps the behavior, but it also hides the feature. And I think it's more important to show it. I think most of the time you want to know what you have selected. So you can turn it off, but it's on by default. Let's move on to P for paint. Well, okay, this is a making the UI simpler. Basically, there is a panel called called modes, which lets you change the mode a brush is going to work on. However, that option, since brush assets it didn't work anymore. So it's basically read-only, something you defined under the hood. So that has been hidden now from the UI because it didn't work anyway. Just in case you don't see that panel. Let's move from refactors to R for rigid body. Rigid body. Sync G impact mesh with collision margin. What does it mean? According to the author of this, means that it should make mesh colliders actually usable now. That's quite the statement. I'm not sure how bad they work or how good they worked before, but okay, I think this gives me an idea of how bad it was. So let's look at this. On the left, the jumpy star, it's not on purpose, actually. That was rigid body collisions. And now, on the right, this is an actual video that is playing. It's just the star is not moving because it's not meant to move. So yeah. It's a bit sad that we no longer have jumpy stars by default, you know, for all the Mario 64 or Mario Galaxy fans. But the good news is that now we have proper physics thanks to this change by Valerie. So thank you so much. Let's see this other one. So before, eek. Gee, that's jumping a lot. Yeah. Okay, maybe I get what it wasn't. And finally, a stack of mesh colliders, each with a default margin of 0.4. So this is before and this is after. Wow. Do you see? We are actually getting proper... Well, I'm just surprised that we are getting improvements in physics all together. Like, that's news for Blender. For BlenderToday, for anything. So, yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Valerie. And keep them coming. Let's see. What else? That is for rigid bodies. So, well, do you have to do anything or it just works? Seems to just work, no? Yeah. Nice. Let's continue. So that was R for rigid bodies. I guess we move to S, or no, straight to U for U and I. There are a few changes. Some of them are just small quality of life changes. Placeholders for text box widgets. This is a feature that should have been added there from day one. It's just placeholders, so the text that shows up in text boxes. The text box is somewhere here. It's just that this video is super huge. We shouldn't see all this. It's just this part maybe, but there you will see placeholder text now. Speaking of placeholders, now they will stay even when the field is focused, which is great. It's not shown here, but let's see it in action. So in up to the previous Blender, let's see in the scene here. So this is a placeholder, right? Movie clip or scene. These are text that is not part of the actual content. It's just a hint of what goes there. When you click on them, in Blender 5.1, it used to remove the content, which is not ideal when you have some cases where you will have the field take the entire width, like a node, and then you click on it and then you don't know what are you supposed to type in there. So now it is, until you type something, of course, and then it goes away. Super nice. Small change. Quality of life improvement by Harley. Thank you so much, Harley. Another one by Harley. Date and time internationalization. So there are now a few options in the preferences, interface, under language. Maybe we should call this language and format or some other, and date, because not just language, right? There is these few options: date format and time format. So you will see it in, well, in every place that has been added. I think only the file browser does it for now. So you have these dates here, which I cannot zoom in because it doesn't allow control. And yeah, it's a good point. Well, but you will see it from here. So if I have this and then I change it from the preferences to language and then I set it to 12-hour, it goes to AM PM. Horrible. Now you can make it proper, 24 hours. Then date format also, you can change it from text like 20 March 1960 to have the number first. So this is ISO, this is one of the ISO, right? Like first the year, month, and then the date. But if you're American and you prefer the date and the month before, you can also do that. Month, day, year. So all of these are included and it will change how you present it here. I don't think it affects other places yet. Like I don't know if we include it in the time. Maybe we should in output, metadata, notes. Like if we do, no, date and time. Interesting. I need to check. It would make sense to show it, to make it show everywhere. But yeah, it's not automatic. So you can have like an American way of writing dates, like this one, 320, and then have, I don't know, the UI in Ukrainian, which I guess this Europe, so I guess they use the ones in Europe, which is, I think it's only America, right? They use the month before the date. All right. You may ask, why using 20 March 1960? Well, as a reference, that's a very old date. That's Ton's birthday. So every time you open Blender, you will see, well, you change the date format, you will remember, oh, it's Ton's birthday. Ton is the creator of Blender, in case you didn't know. And it's a little, we didn't even tell him about this. Maybe one day he will find it. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. Let's see. What else? UI. Gray out. Yeah, another small change. The preferences for sound were being displayed even when sound wasn't available. When out of space, the sound library that we use was disabled. Now, when that is disabled, the options for sound will be grayed out. Makes sense. Then another tiny one is that I was looking at the key menu, the key mirror menu, and I noticed that it was a bit convoluted. So in the key mirror option, there were mirror by times, then by values, then by time, values, and then times again. So it was a bit convoluted. So I made it more like first by times, separator, then values. Most of the items, I tried to keep them in the same place. So current frame are in the same, zero time in the same, zero value moves one, but then most of them are in the same for muscle memory. But I think it's more readable this way, small one. Okay. Yeah, Easter egg. Now you know the Easter egg. We don't have that many Easter eggs in Blender. I think we should add more. Let's see. I wonder when will Blender Secrets make a little video about that Easter egg. Oh, this is awesome. This for customization. So key map here. If you tweak your key maps, this will be a good change for you, because from now, 2 weeks ago, you can now add enum options, individual options inside of an enum of a menu, assign a shortcut. So say, for example, you want to set, yeah, some people like to do this, right? You want to set the channels to be ARGB, for example. So there is some software that does that as a preview. Now you can right click ARGB and it will enable options inside of an enum. I thought it was already, no, actually, if in the past, if you were to add an option, a shortcut here, it would add the entire menu to it. Now you can add individual options. So cool. Let's see. Small also quality of life improvements. But by the way, that one was by Pratik. Amazing. This is really one of those things that, yes, for key map editing. This one, launch the operating system file browser when clicking on an editable path properties. So this, did you know that when there are paths that you cannot edit, so let's say I'm in the preferences, I'm under file paths. Well, did you know that if you click on this, but you hold shift, if you just click on it, by the way, it will open Blender's file browser. If you shift click, it will open the operating system file browser. Pretty neat. So this thing, by the way, when the path cannot be changed, cannot be edited, now you can shift click on it, or actually just click on it, and it will open the file system one, because it's the only one that makes sense, right? You cannot change it. So in that case, that's the behavior. It's a little change, but another little change, the text box grip handler has been moved to the bottom right. This is more in line with any website. Oh, okay, one of those tiny previews again. So let's try to make this bigger. Maybe I can open it in a new browser and just full screen. So yeah, the grip for this used to be at the bottom here, like a UI list, but now is in the corner, similar to every website you've ever visited. Let's see. Wow, this is just in today actually. You may notice, you may have been bothered by this. It's very tiny, but you may have noticed that in the past. So let's open. You see, I hate this. It opens in a new tab by default, and then again. Anyway, so this is how UI lists used to look. Well, no, tree views used to look, and this is how they look now. Ever notice there was a big gap between these items, which was actually different than the UI lists. So for those that follow what a UI list and what a tree view is, this is a tree view and this is a UI list. They are pretty much the same. I explain this every now and then. The separation between these items was different. So it was very annoying. You will have these two one-to-one and there's like, one would be different. Not anymore. Now they are the same. And by the way, this is an example. So this was by Brecht. And Brecht is working on texture layers. And the demo image that he used, I don't know if you know this. Texture layers. There is a new panel that has a BSDF and inside has layer, layer, layer. That is pretty interesting, isn't it? Yeah, with 100% with a eye icon. Interesting. I think it's not an eye icon. I think it should be a checkbox because you're actually disabling it. But yeah, that is pretty neat. It's a little hint that Brecht is working under the hood into something else related to the feature that everybody's been waiting forever. Let's see. Llama, says someone in the chat. No, that's not Llama. Llama is layer material. This is layer textures. All right, let's U for USD. Incremental save now for export. There is a new option. The USD currently only saves to disk at the very end of the export. So due to how USD deduplicates data, all time samples remain in memory until that time. This is problematic. So now there is a new option in the animation panel when animation is selected that allows you to save incrementally. Nice. Let's see what else. U for UV. This is a small one. It's just, I mean, it's still important. Ethan tackled there is a task that I made a while ago about some quality of life changes in the UV editor, especially in the rip operator. The rip operator used to fail just with a generic message. It wouldn't tell you why. And now it does. Now it tells you, for example, if the edge doesn't have other connected edges, it tells you, hey, that's what's happening. And the same for vertices. Before it would just fail, and now it tells you, hey, and then yeah, before it would just say rip failed. Okay, now it tells you what you should do. A vertex must have connected edges. Super nice. And you know what else is nice? When you can disable individual options in modifiers, right? That's the magic of modifiers. Well, you can now toggle modifiers on and off for viewport or render. And the modifiers I'm talking about is sequencer modifiers, because I forgot to mention VS. This is V for VSE, Video Sequence Editor. So nice. The Video Sequence Editor modifiers can now be disabled for render. Before it was just one toggle, and you will have to remember. So this is so great for performance. So you can have some expensive modifiers disabled while playing back, but when you render, it would execute. So cool. So yeah, nice. Super nice. Let's see what else. And no, that's it actually. I'm done. I am done. Do we have any questions today? I forgot to. Do we have the? Let's open the thread. Did someone made a thread, please? Blender community. And let's go here and see Blender community. Compositor, yes, we do. Awesome. Thank you, Namna. But let me. I'm not logged in. Or am I? Blender ID. Oh, I have to ask, connect, and call the president. But I'm logged in here. And the world will be such a better place with if there was no need for double authentication and adding your, you know, logging in with your ID, with your fingers, with your anything. So how many questions there are? There are 13 comments. So let me scroll all the way to the bottom and see what has changed here. So, all right. Hi, Pablo, says Paul P. Low, says. Thanks for the weekly updates. Appreciate the effort and time you put into it. This is bi-weekly. However, we have a new communications person in the team, and she will be making shorts of the Blender Today live streams. So people who miss the live streams and don't want to watch 2 hours of lives, they can just watch these small clips. So if you watch shorts, or if you use the app and have shorts enabled in the YouTube app, you will see every now and then what you already seen here, but maybe cropped into less than a minute bits, so you can learn and share them more easily. Let's see. I just wanted to ask if you think any of these video sequence additions will make it to 5.2. All right. Scrubbing regions. Potentially, yes, because it is almost approved. Actually, it's been approved by Dalai and me, so on the design side. And John's last commit says almost there. So I think it will make it to 5.2. Yes. VoiceOver, no. There's no one working on it actively at the moment. Wait, there is someone. But it's still work in progress. The last update was yesterday. Sorry, still minor bugs. I suppose this PR may not will be merged. Well, I mean, it's not being reviewed because it is marked as work in progress. So that's why it's not being reviewed. That's the main reason. Why not? So if you want this to be reviewed, then it has to be, maybe drop by the chat of the module. So if you go to modules, VFX and video, that's a sequencer, and then drop by the sequencer chat, then you can sequencer chat, then you can maybe let the developers know that your PR is ready for review. The scopes view, actually this, I approved it. John asked for some changes. The last time was 3 weeks ago. So yes, I think so. Right now has a lot of conflicts. So this needs to be updated to the latest and then addressed all this feedback. So as you can see here, John mentioned 3 weeks ago that this needs to be removed. This is unused. Anyway, feedback. So the developer of this has to give it an update. So it's not up to the module itself. Audio emitter. I guess this one might be part of the scopes, right? It's a scope. So I don't think so. And also hasn't been reviewed. It's still work in progress. The last update was 4 months ago. So, well, no, less. Yeah, 4 months ago, January. So unfortunately, doesn't seem like it. And the captions editor, I would assume too, right? It's still work in progress. I am the only reviewer. And the last update is last month. So actually 1 month ago. I haven't had a single mat in all day. In all the live stream. Yeah, unfortunately, as you can see, the top one is promising. The other ones depend on the updates of the developers. The one that is very close, I think, is the new scopes view. Let's see. Next. This is by David. Hey Pablo, hope you're doing good. Thank you. I hope you too. I was thinking, can we make Grease Pencil feature directly inside the Compositor? Or can we make the Grease Pencil Compositor or Effects tab inside of Geometry Nodes? Can we have a global material for Grease Pencil, because I can't use... It's a bit hard to read, sorry. I can't use the material from another object. I have to create new one for Grease Pencil. So these are many questions. Materials. There is no active development on that, but I know that at some point there was this topic of making basically Grease Pencil support Eevee materials or regular materials to make them more unified. But I don't think that's that development is happening at the moment. But it is something that was mentioned at some point. Next. Grease Pencil effects. Yes, there are conversations also. I don't know the current state of that, but there are conversations for making those effects. So for example, if I have a stroke here, I hope I don't have a stroke, but just a stroke, Grease Pencil, then I add an effect that these things are eventually moved into the Compositor. So not Geometry Nodes, but Compositor. Because if you look at it, I mean, it's just right? Like if you have blur, this we can do already, right? If you have glow, you have any of these effects, in this case, glow, blur, right? This, the size, this can be Compositor with masking. So yeah, eventually I think that's a goal, to not have to maintain yet another mode. Next, Jack Roki says, hi Pablo, great work on the live stream yesterday. Do you know when? Ah, yeah, nice, thank you. So the live stream yesterday actually was Francesco hosting it, and the team there. But I was behind the scenes adding links in the chat to anything that the team was using. So at some point, Andy and Sergey were both wearing the same Blender t-shirt, and I sent a link in the chat. Hey, you can buy this t-shirt in the store. And Francesco was sipping from a mug, Blender mug, and then that one also happens to be in the store. So was doing live. Maybe that's something an AI would do in the future, but I enjoyed doing it myself and talking to people myself in person. Sorry, what was I was skipping your question. Do you know when work on the multi-stage compositor is starting? Roadmap says not started. Good question. No, I don't know more than what is in the roadmap actually. By the way, you can access the roadmap from the top navigation bar as well. The link to the upcoming multi-stage compositor last year, NPR basically, out of shape compositing. Hey, that's my my compositing. Split rendering, polymorphic AOBs. So this is related to the NPR project, but if you look at it, actually many of things like object level compositor, that's Grease Pencil effects in a way. then all the changes that are being done to Eevee, to the Compositor, it's all part of the same. So I would say it's not too far. It's one of those projects that if you look at, where was it? The projects to look forward this year. In the code blog, no? Code blog, winter of quality, volumes. No, that was in blender.org, not in. And then if you go to /news, then we should see it. Press releases, no, news. Projects to look forward 2026. And those are lighting, rendering, and compositing. So not for 2026, but let's hope it's for next year. After all, I mean, now you see all the work being done for the Compositor. That applies to, especially speed, to other parts. Flowgun says, hello Pablo, any updates on the decades old issue with the keymap editor? Which one of all of them? It's from January. It's not that old. Add-ons can add duplicate keymap entries. Yeah, this is a hopefully something that will be tackled in my design for, how do you call this? You call the keymap editor. It's in the module roadmap here, keymap v3. This is a task that I have to update. I have to add mockups, but it's the effort to try to make the managing of keymaps way simpler for the user, but way more complicated for developers. Basically, I'm still missing the most important mockup here, which is a list, UI list with many keymaps that you can layer. So basically you add a keymap layer for Blender, the default, and then on top you can add a keymap layer for the viewport to only change those or override those keymap related shortcuts for the viewport, which will be amazing. And then you can add another one for, I don't know, Maya, if you want to use that, or an add-on can add on top a layer, and then you should be able to swap those layers. So if you have an add-on that changes what the W key does and you don't want that, you prefer another one, you could remove that or disable it or add another override. That would be amazing. But anyway, let's see. But yeah, this is developers, please give more attention to such core Blender functionalities. Yes, I know it's I need to finish the design and then hopefully get it in time to the next round of projects. It's gonna be a huge project, but let's hope it's gonna be tackled at some point. It's so important. It's the keymap. It's how you interact with Blender. Super important. 3 questions, but the original question is this. Hola Pablo. Last week I asked if there were any plans to bring UV render paths to Eevee, and you said you would check with the team. And you no, sorry. I know, but I said I was gonna check on something else, and I'm gonna write it down. Like for real, writing it down. So this is UV pass Eevee. I'm writing it down and I ask Clement about it because I forgot. But somebody asked me why in some tests of a feature that I showed last week, Vulkan was way slower than OpenGL. And I asked them, and it turns out that it will not always be that way. At some point, eventually, Vulkan should be the same or faster. But at this time, dealing with this specific type of instances, geometry nodes instances, OpenGL is a bit faster than Vulkan at the moment. However, Vulkan makes other parts of Blender faster. So I think it levels out unless you only do geometry nodes instances. Then OpenGL will be faster in some cases for playback. Let's see. Grid. Well, there were many more questions. 3. Jesus. Please edit your comment and leave all the questions in the same one, so it's easier. Any plans to allow flipping XYZ on Adap2 constraints? I have no idea really. That's a question maybe to drop by the animation module chat and ask them. Maybe a role property to allow, yes, again. Any chance we could get snap cursor to view? It's one of the notable missed options for snapping. Currently we have to add additional cameras to the scene, set the new camera to active camera, snap the camera to view, select the snap cursor to the view. I mean, that's just setting the cursor, no? Like shift right click, that sets it to the camera view, unless you have the tool set to something else. What am I missing? And then you want to snap the cursor to the view of the camera. So if I'm in the camera view, right? You have to add additional cameras, set the new camera to active, snap the camera to view, select the camera. I'm not sure. Or you should select if you select the camera and then snap the cursor to active, doesn't it snap it also to the view? Like the viewpoint, no? Like the C is a camera. Let's see. Greetings from Albania. Albania is in Spanish. I would love to have a sing length node in geometry nodes, either in seconds or frames. How hard would that be? I use a driver for that and divide it by the current frame to get a normalized time value. Good question, actually. We do have scene frame, scene time. So you get the current scene time, scene frame. But yeah, indeed, we could have a scene info, maybe, that gives you the, yeah, I think it would make sense, no? Maybe it's not that hard to add as a, like a good first issue for someone that is trying out. I think nodes nowadays is not as hard as it used to be many years ago. I recall developers saying that in the past it used to take like 10 files to make one node, and now it's 3 files. But there are new nodes being added all the time, so you will see examples, PR examples of these new nodes added all the time. So maybe if you want to give it a try, would be nice. Let's see. Next. Sheldon J says, "Hey, Pablo, hope you guys are doing well and congrats on the release. My kids loved it." Nice. Congrats, Andy and the team. Questions regarding animation layer. Someone linked me their Blender roadmap and stated animation layer was on hold. Yes, that's so unfortunate. I mean, it's on hold, but not that much on hold. Let me explain. So yeah, it's a bit annoying that it's the only item here that is on hold. But that's just because, I mean, it's on hold, but many other items here are actually on hold. Like if you think about it, for example, the well, they're not. No, this is done. Ripple editing is being worked on, but it's also being delayed by other things. Whereas animation layers or layer actions the development should start not that long from now, actually. The main developer working, so there's a few full-time developers. There's one full-time developer, other developers helping half part-time. But one of the module owners Zebran is working at the moment on online assets. So once that is there, I think that will free him to work on animation layers. But it's on hold, but not really on hold. It's one of the projects still for this year. So keep an eye on this because this should be updated not that soon enough. Let's see. It's just that don't want to give false promises, but it's very soon. Let's see. But yeah, it's one of those projects that it will be tackled this year. There is already designed even how it will look, and it should be pretty much straightforward because actually that's one of the topics that we already tackled this year with design wise with Dalai. Freeway 80 says, "Hey Pablo, congrats to the team for the new short film. The new texture painting layer system seems to be baked into the principal BSDF. No, the principal BSDF is the example BSDF that is being used, but eventually it would support other BSDF or any BSDF really, even diffuse BSDF or emission or anything really. So yeah, actually let's look at the roadmap. Texture layers. If you look at some of the mockups, with the BSDF here, this mockup for example, you see principal BSDF, and then here you see a little arrow down that allows you to select the BSDF. So the BSDF lets you select the BSDF that's active in the material node tree. By default, it's a principal BSDF, but you can use any of them. When this is selected, adding a new layer will add it to this BSDF. But if you look at the glossary, which we spend a lot of time tweaking, a BSDF can be, for example, principal or OpenPBR BSDF. So yeah, it will be tackled. Let's see. 2. Are there plans to implement GLSL or HLSL shading language? Not as far as I know. It's not in the near future, as far as I know. Could be wrong, so please let us know if I'm making a mistake. So, what would it take to have C++ plugins for Blender? Is this feasible ever going to happen? This is one of those features that has been requested for the longest time. I don't see it happening any time soon. C++ plugins can really mess up the software, can really make it unstable. That's one of the many reasons why popular industry standard software crashes so much, from what I've heard. It's because this can really mess up with memory stuff. I mean, Python also, it's one of the reasons why some Blender reports crash often, because with Python you can do all kind of crazy things. But imagine if there was a C++ engine plugin also. Yeah, you get access, you get more performance, but at the same time you give up so much. But yeah, stability. Hola Pablo, congrats on your film. This is great. There is a great setting in Eevee for lights where you can enable custom distance. Sadly, this feature is not available in Cycles, even though it only affects the icon in the viewport. That doesn't affect the render at all. Would be great if the second is exposed when Cycles is selected as well. So custom distance for lights. Yes, although how do you do that with path tracing, right? You need to cut the path tracing, like I think it's trickier. But yeah, they must have their reasons to not allow that. But I don't know exactly, sorry. And the first question, super excited for texture layers, says no, but I've got several projects I'm working on, though I'm afraid probably none of them will make it in time for the LTS for 5.2 coming out in July. I keep picking up those odd things that need changes. Blender doesn't have a transparent black background AUB for missed pass, for example. I love the impact frame in Singularity. Do you know how long it took to get the timing right? The impact frame. Ah, the shot, no spoilers, one shot where that happens for the timing. I don't know exactly about how long it took to get that timing right. I just know that the render time went from 20 minutes to up to 2 hours per frame. Crazy. So, let's see. Also, you mentioned the performance tab. Maybe there is enough there to separate render performance and general performance. That entire section has so many options already. Maybe enough to separate render performance from general performance. What do you mean? As in like performance? It's in render. So that, I think most of them are render, right? Like memory, compositor, the noise nodes. Wow, there is already many nested levels here. I mean, they're mostly related to rendering performance, right? Simplify is more on the side of actual, like limiting the number of particles or subdivisions, or like in the sense of actual geometry limitations. Let's see. How many more questions? That's it. That's the last question. So look at the amount of collections of items that Nonapod has. Even we still haven't done, we still haven't done the survey 2025 batch there, but you have Silver Development Fund, Bronze Development Fund, 30th birthday, and then all the projects. Oh, we need to make the critter one for people that support the project. Nice. But yeah, all right. Well, by the way, these badges are a combination of the development fund badges, if you are part of it. So if you are somewhere in this list of, well, any of these lists actually, well, we should show the badge here, right? In gold, we have badges for each one. We should show it, so then you can make the connection. So we should find, I'm not gonna find, maybe Nick. We have many Nicks. Nick Lager, yeah. Critter. All right, time to, how are these doing? 7579. I think it's about the same than last time. So we're stable. We're stable. Someone donated 20 bucks 7 minutes ago. Nice. Oh, by the way, sometimes when you see this super spike in the donations, that's because at the end of the month, on the 28th, is the day where most renewals happen. So it's not like everybody decided to donate there. It's just that renewals all happen in one day, because if you take the median of all the months, it ends up about 28 days, more or less. So let's see what else. Oh, by the way, the wait, let's if you have just joined, you may want to have the link to the asset library, the online asset library. So I'm going to share it in the chat so you can connect, you can try it out again. Please add it here, add it to your this URL. It's gonna say that it's forbidden, but you should paste it on Blender in the new remote asset library, or just wait a little, because apparently this will be part of Blender, the next release. Let's see if it's already there. Let's go. This is how I find out about things that are committed to Blender. I go to projects, click on Blender or Blender, then link commits, and look for, hey Julian, 2 hours ago, which is when we started. There is this commit, include online as essentials in essentials library. With this, the essentials library will be expanded to allow to also show assets hosted online. So cool. Awesome. Amazing. All right, time to call it a day. I hope you had fun. It's been a long episode today. There was only 355 commits. Usually there's 400 or so. There was a holiday, and there will be a holiday this time actually on Thursday in the Netherlands. There is a holiday, and then the 25 there is another holiday. So there will be maybe 2 days that developers don't work. The ones here, although the people online have their own extra holidays, so that doesn't apply to them. But it applies to me, although it doesn't affect me because the next time we're gonna chat is the day after that holiday, on the 26th of May, for another episode of Blender Today Live. I hope you had a great time. I did. Thanks for hanging out with me and everybody in the chat and dealing with the bots. I hope at some point we're gonna not have to deal with that many bots, or they will get tired and go away. See you next time. Have fun. Watch out for... It's not really that loud. Yeah. Oh, this is Gilles' thing, but I went to watch Mortal Kombat the other day. Super fun. Go watch it. It's not for kids though. It's very hardcore. Yeah, anyway, it was fun. See you next time. Ciao.